You think you are free. You make choices. You move through the world. You call no one master. But look at what you did this morning. Look at what you refused to say last week. Look at how quickly you changed your mind the moment someone disapproved. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am Epictetus, and today I am joined by Carl Jung and LAOZI. Today, we are examining what does it mean to be truly free, and what change do most people never notice? Let me be direct. Most people are not free. They believe they are free because no one is standing over them with a whip. But freedom is not the absence of a master outside you. The Stoics understood this. A man who needs approval to feel safe is a slave. A man who cannot bear discomfort without running from it is a slave. A man who lets his judgment be hijacked by every passing opinion is a slave. The chains are invisible, but they are heavier than iron. The question is not whether you are in chains. The question is whether you have bothered to look.
I do not disagree that the chains are invisible, but I think you are describing symptoms without locating the disease. You say a man is enslaved to approval or comfort. Yes, but why? Why does the need for approval have such grip? It does not come from nowhere. It comes from what was formed early, what was wounded early, what the child learned to hide in order to survive. The chain you are so eager to cut has a root, and cutting a chain without addressing the root is not liberation, it is amputation.
You are both already arguing about the solution before you have agreed on what the problem is. That is itself a kind of unfreedom. I notice that. The person who is truly free is not the one who has defeated their chains. It is the one who has stopped pretending the chains are something they did not themselves help to forge.
LAOZI, that is an elegant way to say nothing actionable. Yes, we helped forge the chains. So what? The point is not the origin story. The point is that right now, in this moment, you have the capacity to use your judgment or to surrender it. The Stoics did not say you are free because nothing bad happened to you. They said you are free because your judgment is yours. No one can take that from you unless you hand it over. Stop handing it over.
But Epictetus, you assume the judgment is accessible. You assume the person can simply choose to use it clearly. That is where I must push back. The shadow, the accumulated weight of what we have suppressed, does not sit quietly. It distorts. A man who has buried his shame does not see the world clearly. He sees it through the lens of his shame, without knowing that is what he is doing. His judgment is not free. It is captive to something he cannot see because he has refused to look at it. You cannot simply will your way past that.
Jung is pointing at something real, but I would say it differently. Most people are not enslaved by what they have buried. They are enslaved by what they are constantly reaching for. The grasping itself is the chain. The wanting to be certain, the wanting to be secure, the wanting to resolve everything into something clean and settled. That reaching creates the prison. The bars are made of effort.
Reaching is not the problem. Reaching for the wrong things is the problem. You reach for what is not in your control and you exhaust yourself on it. That is Stoic doctrine, and it is not complicated. The dichotomy of control. Some things are up to you. Your judgment, your values, your choices. Some things are not. What others think of you, what happens to your body, whether the world cooperates with your plans. The person who reaches only for what is genuinely theirs, who does not waste energy trying to possess what cannot be possessed, that person is free, not because life is easy, because they know what game they are actually playing.
I find the dichotomy useful as a starting point, but it sidesteps the hardest question. Who is doing the dividing? If my judgment is distorted, then my assessment of what is in my control is also distorted. I may believe I have accepted something when I have simply suppressed my reaction to it. I may believe I am indifferent to approval when I am actually performing indifference in order to win a different kind of approval. The ego is extraordinarily creative when it comes to self-deception. Epictetus, you are right that freedom lives in the judgment. But the judgment must be examined before it can be trusted.
I want to ask something neither of you has asked. What if freedom is not a state you achieve? You are both describing a project. Examine yourself, correct your judgment, know what is yours to control. That is still a project. That still assumes that freedom is something at the end of a process. But I wonder if that framing itself is the trap. What if freedom is simply what is here when you stop doing so much to find it?
That sounds like permission to do nothing. I want to be careful here. LAOZI, I have respect for the Taoist position, but when you say freedom is what is here when you stop reaching, I hear students using that as a reason to remain comfortable in their captivity. They say, I am not struggling, I am accepting, and then nothing changes. Nothing changes because they call their passivity wisdom. I will not accept that.
There is a version of Stoic practice that does exactly the same thing. A man who is running from grief tells himself he has accepted it. A man who is terrified of intimacy tells himself he has wisely reduced his attachment to external things. The vocabulary of wisdom can be borrowed by the shadow. That is one of its oldest tricks.
You are both right about the failure modes, but you are each diagnosing the failure mode of the other's system, not your own. EPICTETUS, the failure mode of your system, is the person who uses discipline as armor. They are controlled, yes, but they are also closed. They have traded one chain for a cleaner-looking one. JUNG, the failure mode of your system, is the person who excavates endlessly and never acts. They understand their wound beautifully and live inside it anyway.
That is fair, I will take that. The person who uses discipline as a wall is not free. They have simply built a better-looking cage. Freedom is not rigidity. It is responsiveness rooted in clear values. You can be moved without being swept away. That is the point. A Stoic sage is not a stone. A Stoic sage is someone whose center holds.
And I will say this, the goal of depth psychology is not endless excavation. The goal is what I would call individuation, the process of becoming genuinely yourself, rather than a collection of borrowed roles and defensive structures. That is not so different from what Epictetus is describing. The difference is that I believe you cannot get there by skipping past the interior. You have to go through it.
Perhaps, but going through it is not the same as fighting through it. There is a way of looking at yourself that is itself an act of force. You grip the self-examination, you pursue the insight like prey, and in that pursuit, you are still doing the same thing you do with everything else. You are trying to conquer it. That is not freedom. That is just a more sophisticated form of control.
LAOZI, I want to press you. What does non-forcing look like in practice for a person who is genuinely captive? Who wakes up every day and hands their peace over to someone else's mood, someone else's judgment of them? What do you say to that person?
I say, notice what you are doing, not in order to stop it immediately, just notice it, see that you are doing it. Most people who are captive to someone else's opinion have never once clearly seen the moment the handover happens. They have never watched themselves do it. The noticing is not nothing. It is the beginning of something that cannot be forced.
That is actually close to what I would say as well. The first step is always seeing. Not fixing, not correcting, just seeing clearly what is there. The shadow does not dissolve through will. It dissolves through honest witness. When you can look at the part of yourself that craves approval, not condemn it, not celebrate it, just see it clearly, it loses some of its grip. Not all of it, but some.
And I will add, seeing is not enough on its own. Seeing without acting on what you see is just voyeurism. You watch yourself hand over your piece, and then you hand it over again. At some point, seeing must produce a choice, a different behavior. Otherwise, the clarity is worthless.
The tree does not argue about the storm. It simply bends, and in bending it becomes more itself. The person who bends without breaking is not weak. They have simply stopped confusing rigidity with strength.
That image points at something important. The self that survives pressure is not the one that was never bent. It is the one that was bent and did not break, and then discovered that what remained was more essential than what was lost. That is individuation. You come through the pressure as something more genuinely yourself.
Fine, bend without breaking, but you still have to know what you are bending around. What is the core that does not move? That is the question. What is actually yours? What is the thing no storm takes? Because if you do not know that, you are not bending with wisdom. You are just being swept.
And if you grip the core too hard, you become the storm yourself.
I think what we are circling is this. Most people have never asked the question seriously. Not philosophically, not as an exercise, but with genuine urgency. What is actually mine? What have I been performing because it was expected? What chains did I mistake for identity? Those are uncomfortable questions. The mind will do almost anything to avoid sitting with them honestly.
Which brings us back to the beginning. The reason people do not notice their chains is not that the chains are subtle. It is that they have decided not to look. Looking is uncomfortable. The chain is familiar. There is a grotesque comfort in captivity when you have known nothing else.
Yes, the cage becomes home, and then freedom, when it is offered, looks like homelessness.
You have heard the argument. Now hear the thing underneath it.
Most people are not free, and most people do not know it. Not because they are foolish, but because the chains that hold them do not feel like chains. They feel like personality, they feel like just the way I am. They feel like good reasons for the choices that keep repeating. Here is what is actually happening. Very early in life, you learned what version of yourself was safe to show. You learned which feelings were acceptable and which had to disappear. You did not make this decision consciously. You made it the way children make all important decisions, by survival. And then you carried that arrangement forward into every relationship, every conversation, every moment, where you could have been free, but instead performed the role that felt safe. That is the chain most people never notice. Not cruelty from outside, not bad luck. The suppressed self, the version of you that was too much or not enough or simply not permitted. It is still in there. And until you turn toward it honestly, it will keep running the show from behind the curtain. Freedom does not begin with a decision to be different. It begins with the willingness to see clearly what is actually there. Not to fix it immediately, not to condemn yourself for it, just to see it. Today, try this. Find one pattern in your life that keeps repeating, a dynamic you keep ending up in, a feeling that returns no matter how many times you resolve it. Do not try to solve it. Sit with one honest question: what role am I playing in keeping this in place? That question, held without defense, is the beginning of actual freedom.
The chains you do not see are the only ones that matter. The ones you can see, you can choose to carry or set down. The ones you cannot see, choose for you. You have been handed a question today, not an answer. Whether you use it is the only measure of whether this hour mattered. Walk out of here and look at one thing you have refused to look at. That is not a small act. That is the whole work. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Tribou, 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.